So we've been talking about what we refer to as Renew Washoe County Libraries Initiative. So it's our tax override renewal. So we're working on a number of initiatives to get in front of the public and doing voter education. Our role as a library is to do voter education, talk about all the great things we've done with the tax funding, and then doing the yes vote is someone else's responsibility. So this will focus on what our activities are. So the question in front of voters, the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners approved this on June 18th meeting. We're talking about the renewal of the tax override. On November 5th, Washoe County voters will decide whether to extend a 30-year tax dedicated to acquiring, constructing, improving, maintaining, and operating the Washoe County Library System. This is a renewal of a 30-year tax, not a new tax. An allotment of 2 cents for every $100 of assessed property value that goes directly to Washoe libraries. There's not an additional tax on Washoe County citizens. Our goal is to maintain the award-winning, outstanding library service Washoe County residents have come to enjoy. So the actual question that's going to be before voters is the Washoe County question: shall the Board of County Commissioners of Washoe County be allowed to levy an ad valorem tax in the amount of up to 2 cents for $100 assessed valuation for a period of 30 years to raise approximately $4.5 million in fiscal year 2025-2026 and thereafter? The amount generated by a levy of up to 2 cents per $100 assessed valuation against the then applicable assessed value of property in the county for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, improving, equipping, operating, and maintaining library facilities for the county. So we talked a little bit about the history of the tax. I think that's one of the things people bring up is, what was the origin of the tax? What we spent with the money in 30 years. We want to make sure voters understand how long this has been in place. So in 1994, Library Director Ruth Gould had the vision to sustain libraries for the future. She saw the changes in the property tax in Nevada. We've been here in the 80s. You saw those fortunes change where property tax valuation went to Vegas instead of Northern Nevada, so that revenues in the Washoe County would go down. And then also she saw that Las Vegas, Clark County passed their own bond and were expanding their library system. And so what could she do to make sure that Washoe County libraries are protected and sustained for the future? So her idea was this tax. So the 2 cents for every $100 of assessed value for the county. Actually spoke to a trustee recently, Sandra Scott, who contacted me the other day, and she said that she was on the board when this was originally passed. And so she actually has one of the pins that you had where it had 2 pennies on it to advertise, just 2 little cents for the library. And it was great kind of marketing trick for that, to do that. So it's great to see the history and reaching out of that going forward about what we can do to sustain libraries for the future. All right. So we talked about the history of what we've done with the tax in the last 30 years. We built the Northwest Reno Library. So originally it was a pharmaceutical company in the 90s, went belly up. With this tax, we're able to purchase that facility and renovate it. We're able to build the South Valley's library that we're sitting in right now. The big yellow building for years was the only thing standing in this area. And now it's a hub of activity right now. And the Incline Village Library and the Spanish Springs Library. Assisted Washoe County Libraries weathered an economic recession of 2008-2016. So during that time period, we had a lot of budget cuts, we had a lot of staff layoffs. The county authorized us to use the tax to make sure some of the staff stayed on instead of laying them off. So we're able to keep staff, on the roll and moving forward. And then more recently, we were able to renovate the North Valley's Library, Downtown Reno Library, Northwest Reno Sparks, and Sierra View Libraries. That's in conjunction with a number of donations, a county donation, and the expansion tax. So the Keno Trust was something that came before the board in 2016. There was $900,000 of private donation that went to the library. We negotiated with them to renovate our facilities, and they agreed to that. So with a combination of county funds, expansion tax funds, and private donation, we're able to make the libraries all wonderful as they are. So talking about what happens with the consequences of the pass-fail. So if we're able to pass the tax, we're able to continue our march to renovate all of our facilities. As we renovated downtown Sparks and Northwest, we now turn to South Valley and Spanish Springs and Incline Village libraries. And if you recall, I mentioned those were the new libraries with the tax previously. So now they're starting to show their age. And it's great to see come back around and do some new carpet, new paint, new furniture at those facilities to make sure we're sustained for the future. We're also looking to build a new North Valley's library. So we have a large private donation that's going to be contributed to the library. So with this tax, we also contribute to that to build a new North Valley's library. That's a leased facility right now. And then expand library services, as you see, with the book wheel services and book vending machines all throughout the region. We're reaching further into the North Valley and Spanish Springs regions. We're Pyramid Lake Paiute Reservation. We're doing North Valley's area, Cold Springs, Warm Springs, and we're also going to South Valley's region, Washoe Lake, Washoe Valley as well. So the alternative is the tax fails. As a reminder, the tax fails, the tax rate does not go down. Those 2 cents that are dedicated to the library would just go into the general county coffer. So we're making sure we're really clear about that information. So if that tax rate failed, we're not able to get that funding, we'd have Washoe Librarians laid off. A lot of the expansion taxes have been used for the 7-day work service that we have right now. So we lose Saturday, Sunday, Monday hours at many of our locations. The book budget will be eliminated. The entirety of our book budget is 1.4 million. That is entirely out of the expansion tax. There's only about $50,000 that comes out of the county budget, which doesn't really go very far. And then technology budget is also taking out of the expansion tax. And then, like as I mentioned, the branches will lose weekend and evening hours. So we had this plan before the board back in November, so just a recap of that. We had the 3-phase plan, we had the emerge, outreach, and then election. So the emerge was developing the action plan, showing up for the board, raising awareness of the tax override. What this comes from is the Every Library Handbook, which is basically looking at the library as a political candidate. So if you look at the elections, you know, when someone's going to run for office, they write a book, and then they go on talk shows. That's kind of the emerging. And so as a library, we're also trying to emerge to let people know that we're here, and we've been here serving the public for over 120 years, and we're looking to sustain our libraries for the future. Next phase of that was the outreach. So we're outreaching to local agencies. We did a tour of local citizen advisory boards, going to Sun Valley, Cold Springs, and other locations, talking about the bookmobile and talking about the value of the expansion tax. Continue our voter education and develop our support group. So we did have a support group that formed, is the Freedom to Read Nevada. And that is a political action committee that's now activated and raising funds to help library with Get Out the Yes vote. Phase 3 is the election. So June to November, we're in the home stretch right now. So where you had the Board of County Commissioners approve the tax override on the November 5th ballot that happened on June 18th. And then we're beginning the media blitz for Washoe County Libraries voter education. So we're doing paid advertisements. You're seeing advertisements in This Is Reno. We're seeing advertisements on PBS Reno. We're also getting a lot of media attention from our On the Shelf on KUNR, our Colo updates, and other media outlets that we're making sure we're made available and we can chat about all the great things our libraries do. I mentioned June 18th, it's 3-2 vote to get it on the ballot. So we're good to go, we're off and running. So I got a nice phone call from Riley Sutton, talking to us about we're in the home stretch and now we're off to the races. So good times now. So I mentioned the media coverage. So one of the things we talked with Riley initially about media coverage is that for a campaign like this, you would have to really raise $200,000 to get the media buys and everything else. And certainly in going to be a very crowded election time period, it will be contested presidential election, as long as statewide and county elections are going to be facing. So we will do all we can to make sure we're getting out there. So we're averaging about $20,000 a month in free radio and television advertisement. So we have the KUNR On the Shelf. I do the Colo updates. That's both the Colo update and Colo book club. So it's a 4-minute spot that we get talking about Great Things Library. And then also getting pickups. So recently we were talking about the heat wave, talking about the libraries being a cooling center, and we got great pickups on Channel 4 and other news outlets covering that. So every time we get mentioned in the news, that's something that helps with our tax initiative, because talk about the value of libraries to the average person. You may not use the library, but you understand the value of what we do for the public. So we're looking at raising, we're probably going to get $200,000 by the time we get to the November 5th election. So that's kind of what our goal is as far as getting press coverage. So we conducted a poll in beginning of June, end of May, and we found that if the vote were to happen today, 68% of Washoe County citizens, Washoe County voters would vote for the tax. So that's really great to get that right off the bat. A lot of times when we're looking at a poll like that, the philosophy is that if you have 68% of the vote, if you don't do anything between now and election time, you'll lose 10 points off of that. So if we did nothing, we'd still be winning that tax. But what we took from that information from that poll was what we can do to make sure people know what the tax paid for. And that's kind of where this presentation here talking about, we're paying for weekend hours, we're paying for library renovations, we continue to expand library services, the tax were put it to be renewed, and it would not be a new tax, it was just a renewal of existing tax. and the tax would not go down if you voted no on the tax. The money would just go directly to Washoe County Conference. So we're working on communication about that. We have the brochures out, we have the flyers out, and we have talking points with our staff about talking about those developments. So this is across the board support, both Republican, Democrat, and nonpartisan support, basically split 3 ways. And then if your average respondent was a 60-year-old white married Republican homeowner. So that was interesting to see the average person in Washoe County really supports the tax and supports the library. And that's really great to see. So like Riley said, we're off to the races. So we're basically doing a voter education focus. So working on getting on TV, getting on the radio, finding other outlets we can communicate, talking to service clubs, talking to anyone who listened to me for about 20 minutes, talking about that it's not a new tax, it's a continuation of existing tax. Taxes will not go up, but they will not be lowered if it fails. Talking about expansion tax days for Saturday, Sunday, Monday hours. So if you've been going to the libraries, enjoying your Sundays, you're not going to be enjoying them if you don't know the tax. Plans for expansion funds are for renovating Spanish Springs, South Valley, and Plain Village libraries. And so hopefully some of the folks are getting a little bit of taste of that. We got some ARPA funding for both Spanish Springs and South Valley, so we're making some improvements for that. But obviously we're having some age issues with both those locations. We need to look at making sure they're fresh for our patrons. And then looking to build a new North Valley library. That's the big one we're hoping for. We do have a large private donation that's coming, and we're hoping that once that comes through, we're able to get firm date, firm location, and get that rolling. So we're really excited about those efforts. So that's the presentation.